Hello, everybody. I'm Elisha Royal. Welcome back to CEDH Unhinged. I'm ready for him this time. Ready for him this time. Look at that. We're learning. That's what it's about. It's about making mistakes, learning, getting better, improving. That's why you're here. You're watching this video because you want to get better. And hopefully, I can help you do that. I think I can. Been doing this a lot. And I learned a couple of things. Hopefully, I can pass them on to you, give you something useful. Yep. Nope. I know that's a weird object. I don't normally have that on. Okay. I'm gonna put the dog down and focus on you guys. Um, the deck's doing good. We're kind of narrowing it down. If you've been keeping up with the list, you can see it iterates in large chunks and then card by card once we find a general pattern that's working well. Excuse me, one here. Okay, that's better. So generally, the deck is working well because we have a lot of these overlapping functions that complement each other in a way that I don't think has necessarily been done before. And the reason why it hasn't been done before is because the cards that are in this list were just printed. Urza has been slacking recently in the tournament scene, and I think that this is a good route to get him back in the meta. Those cards, what am I talking about? The first one we're going to go over is Fortune Teller's Talent. But I'm going to give you the list first. But I want you to hear about Fortune Teller's Talent, which came out in Bloomberg. Let's go down the list. We've also in this in our 100 cards have Crystal Skull Isu Spyglass, which lets us cast off of the top. That came out with the Assassin's Creed set. We've got some of our other bangers. I probably should just like break it out because I should have been prepared and just looked at the list online. But let's just go through here. So we've got from the new ones, Big Boy, Friends of Gadgeteer. So that came out in the Murders of Karlov Nobody Looked Manor, and it was one of the biggest prints for Urza. I think I'm like I'm thinking of like, is it top 5? Is it top 3? Is it the best one ever? Like, it's subjective. What's the best print ever? Probably, like, you could say Hullbreaker. I would say is like number 1 print because there's an entire like polymorph version that's based off of him as a win condition. But Forensic Gadgeteer, being able to create the artifacts that tap and then draw off the top, is insane in this build where you play an artifact, you create a clue which you can tap for mana, and if the follow-up is also an artifact, you're in good shape, or something else you can cast. If you run into something you can't cast, you tap it, draw it, and then you just keep going. It's basically, with the storm variation, um, it's just a huge enabler, and then it's also your outlet. Excuse me, not your outlet, your win condition when you get your basalt. It's your combo piece. So Forensic Gadgeteer, again, like, huge print, could not be more essential. Wandering Archaic, was Strixhaven long enough ago that we can no longer consider that a new card? And it's not like Urza specific enough. You guys know enough about that card. Reality Chip, yeah, Kamigawa. That's really where this deck like became an idea. Reality Chip, a tutorable top deck cast enabler that is castable in the early game. It's not that 5-cost upfront thing that people can be prepared for. It's one of those things where you can sneak that through turn 1, turn 2 to get that reality chip on there, and then it's like, okay, well, our interaction point is fading away now. It's already on the field. I don't know if that made any sense. Prized Statue, I suppose that came out with our Dungeons and Dragons set. That's what that came out with, I believe. And that is also a banger imposter mech. I don't know what that symbol is. But Hydroelectric Specimen, Modern Horizons 3 was huge for us, and we'll get to a particular card in here in a minute, which will make that apparent. But any of these MBFCs are super valuable because, again, there are properties of the MBFC that are just the top deck castability, straight up being able to cast it off the top and have it not be in land. That's huge. So as many of those MBFCs, regardless of if they're good, they're bad, like um, put them in there if I can cast them. What else are we looking at here? I know that there was a lot of new cards that ended up in this list, but I figured that I would just look directly at them so I didn't miss any. Volatile Storm Drake. We're running both Drakes because guess what? People Drake Urza regularly, so you need to be able to Drake it back. And then it's 2 mana, really hard to interact with removal on the stack, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like once the ETB hits, I suppose you can destroy. I guess that's okay. So yeah, with the guild. Oh, that's interesting. So let's read Volatile Stormdrake. It has the hexproof from activated and triggered ability, so it's not general hexproof. So the thing is if somebody casts a Drake, there's an interaction window where you can blow it up with the ETB on the stack, and then there is no exchange because it's like an if-then statement, and you get to keep your stuff. So in that sense, it is interactable by creature removal, but it's not going to get hit by a swan song, you know. But my point was is that it just came out in that Modern Horizons set. It's got the 2024 date stamp on there. It's a new card, and it's a banger. It made it into this list. But it's not like something that just made it viable. I'm saying that it's a culmination of like all these little pieces that made this an okay thing to do. Into the Flood Mob, Bloomburrow, hot card, just came out. Sink into Stupor, again, one of those MBFCs, those dual faced cards. One Ring, huge print for us. Not as much in this list, but that's still semi modern, right? What does that say on the bottom? 2023 kind of just came out. It's all like, if you just look at the date stamp on the newest versions of all these cards, you could basically build like everything in this list got printed in the last like year almost. I mean, there are a lot of exceptions and stuff like that. Like I have like Nurok Stealth Suit and things like that, which is a fifth Dawn card. Like there's a lot of like weird cards in here, but I'm also saying that these are available pretty cheap. Like as far as like a cheap CDH deck, regardless of like the workshop and stuff. If you wanted to make a budget version, this isn't the worst option. What do we? Oh, Diversion Unit just came out with the newest set, and that's already saved some games. Contributed to winning some games, has been a part of some winning board states where it's that redundant thing on the board that it's like, did it win me the game? Well, I didn't have to use it because people could see it was there. So it was one of those things though that I reshaped for and won a game that way, where it's like I need something that's on the board that interrupts their plan there, that isn't just another card that they can interact with in the moment. They can't just like you can't throw a Force of Will at an activation unless they're stifling, which not many people are doing. Diversion Unit can be a really good preemptive way to shut down wins. But it just came out. Newest card in the deck. Glaring Fleshraker. It was the, again, essential piece that made this list viable in the current form, in the sense that it is the backup win condition. Somebody Praetor's Grasps, exiles, whatever, gets rid of your Aetherflux. You don't really have a lot of options to like finish the game unless you put out this Glaring Fleshraker and then cast a bunch of things afterward and then ping them all down. That is actually the backup win condition. So you either finish it with the Aetherflux or with the Fleshraker, and if you don't have both, you're basically stuck like bouncing Urza to make a bunch of constructs and making them hasty, and then like swinging at somebody, maybe making a couple of copies so you can do that. I don't know. Like I'd have to get pretty creative in order to get through this list without those. And I haven't thought it through. I've never had both of those torn out. I would have to do a little bit more theory crafting. And the list is just now settling out enough for where I can dedicate that kind of time to it and feel like that was a good investment of time, because it's not just going to change tomorrow when we update the list. We have a Repurposing Bay, also just came out. Really good looking foil on this one. I like it. But what set did it come out in? The most recent one? Yeah, this deck is made with new cards. And the thing is that I wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to take all the newest cards and test them out, put it in there. Like these are just the process that I came to build the deck with. Like it considered everything in equal proportion, and it just happened to be just a hot card right off the press for us. Repurposing Bay, take your token, turn it into your Sensei's top, and win the game when you're top deck casting. That's what got red blasted in the last game that we were playing. If you watched our last video, it ate a red blast because that's what it does, man. You just cast it right off the top. You get another token. You get a this or that. Is it discounted? I don't know, but it's not, just the three that you're paying for it normally with. And if it's just chilling there, you don't have anything to tutor for right now, have it be a rock, whatever. That's cool. And then go off next turn. Big dog, you got this. Fortune Teller's Talent. We're going to talk about this card at the end because I think that's the most important one, and I'm going to leave it up top so I don't forget about it. Disruptor Flute, Modern Horizons 3. Can you stop being so great? Yeah, flash out a card that shuts down the activated abilities, which are the main like win conditions of a lot of the decks we're seeing right now in CDH, considering their outlets. There's so many times where I just turn one, it makes sense to play the Pithing Needle. And I'm like, oh, what deck am I going to just absolutely hinder right now? And there's a few people that I'm playing with right now where if you hit them with the Pithing Needle right at the beginning, there's not a lot of options for them to remove because they don't have a lot of artifact removal. They're not running, general bounce spells like we are. So it's like when we see a Cursed Totem, it's like, okay, that's cool. It shuts everybody else down. When we see a Rule of Law, it's like, okay, that's cool. That shuts everybody else down. And when I need to go off, I can reliably bounce that thing. I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many bounces are we running? We've got plenty. Other people are not like that. So when you hit them with the Disruptor Flute that came out of Modern Horizons 3, which just made this deck viable, you can smack people up pretty good. I like to hit. I don't want to. It's like I'm going to name specific cards and specific decks, and I don't want any of my friends to get upset. But I love hitting Sisei's, Kenris, Tahadas. Let's just put them all that way. Let's put them all out there. Kinnons, Thrasios, whatever you're sitting at the table with, you hit it with one of these, they're not going to be feeling very good, and you can tap it for a mana. It was actually cool that the other day I played the Disruptor Flute because it's not just a Pithing Needle. It makes the spell with the chosen name cost 3 more to cast, and I named Thoracle because there was a presented combo, and it actually shut them off of that. They weren't able to cast their Thoracle. It cost 3 more. So that has a good function there. Chimmel, the inner Ixalan Sun, you just came out as well, making sure that my spells aren't countered. And that Explore, or excuse me, it's Discover 5. We've got some cool stuff to hit in here, and it's nice to be able to like drop that for 6 mana, however you get it, and then just be epically prepped for the next turn with whatever you get off the top. Yeah, you're looking pretty good. Chimmel, thank you for the print. What else do we got here? Crystal Skull EC Spyglass. We already talked about you. Top deck cast enabler. I'm putting the fortune tellers back on top because I don't want to forget about that, and I already did. But dude, Crystal Skull EC Spyglass, the 2 blue pips. I mean, okay, so the most important thing to say about Crystal Skull is that the redundancy in the function is what we're after. It's the worst in its category. It does cast those historic spells, but the 2, which is better than Mystic Forge, which is just colorless, right? But it is 2 blue pips, and that is relevant a lot of the time. And that ability to get that thing off the top deck, you'd be surprised how often that comes in handy in comparison. I'm comparing the Mystic Forge and the Crystal Skull EC Spyglass, right? And so it's like, what's the best in category? Fortune Teller's Talent, in my opinion. I mean, it's subjective. It's like if you have a Mishra's Workshop in hand, it's like that Mystic Forge looks really cool. But for general purposes, we'll talk about that Fortune Teller's Talent. But we're really talking about Crystal Skull, which again, it's like bottom of the pile. But let's say the Mystic Forge is gone for some reason and you get a Tezzeret, you can tutor your Crystal Skull. Let's say your win condition top deck cast enabler. This happened the other day. Reality Chip is attached and it's doing its thing. People are debating red blasting it, and you just reveal that you have your Crystal Skull in hand. And you're like, I'll just continue my Sensei's loop with this other one. The redundancy. It's here for the redundancy, You can have a super fire hand and be like, oh man, I only need that top deck cast enabler, and be like, well, you know what? At least I have my Crystal Skull. That'll get me there. Because you have enough cards like the Mind Stone, which I run in instead of even Everflowing Chalice. You can see how highly I value this top deck manipulation. That draw a card effect, being able to continue the chain. The cards will do that organically. You don't have to put cards in that are like specifically good at being chained, like an Everflowing Chalice. It's like, okay, it's a 0-drop, so it's really good at being chained. They're naturally good at being chained, but what you need are the chain enablers, which are the top deck manipulators like the Mind Stone. or Aether Spellbomb. The Spellbomb has that second ability, which is the one that I actually end up using the most in this list, oddly enough, because I see it the most when I'm storming off. I see a bunch of cards doing that, and so I play it, and then when I hit the next land, I tap that thing, sack it, and then I'm off to the races. What else is new in this list? Did I skip over anything before I got distracted by Mind Stone? I don't think so. We're schmoving through Psy Master Thopterist. I don't know when they printed you, but they have an actual million printing, so I can't actually tell how old you are. What else popped up that's new? What else popped up? Gold Pan. Yeah, that just came out in Thunder Junction, right? So that same effect where you cast it and then it creates another treasure. Huge. I like it. And Thunder Junction. What was that? Just like seems like they're coming out with cards all the time. So it's like, oh, it was probably like 6 weeks ago, but 14 sets ago at the same time. Thunder Junction just came out. I think you can actually still buy the collector's boosters. That's how you know that it was still new, right? What are we moving on to? But that was that was a lot of new cards, right? Yeah, that's all. That's all the new ones. But the thing is that without they're not like tangential cards. They're not like things that if I didn't have the density of fortune tellers and crystal Skolisu Spyglass, if I didn't have the backup win condition, if I didn't have the forensic gadgeteer, like there's all these pieces that just got printed in the past year that made this thing viable. And if any like one or two of them weren't there, this thing wouldn't work. And the thing is that in every single set, they're putting out gas, like repurposing bay and diversion unit. Thank you. I knew you were going to have good artifacts in the Aether Drift artifact, oriented vehicle set, but it's weird that there weren't good vehicles in the Aether Drift set. I was actually hoping that those would make a comeback. They'd give me another imposter mech. They didn't do that. But anyways, they're printing gas for this particular kind of list. And what we're going to point out in particular is this fortune teller's talent. Please, other Urza bros, if you're not doing this list, I don't care. If you're doing any Urza stuff and you're running Sensei's top, you should also be on this card. Why should you be on Fortune Teller's Talent as an Urza player? Because as you can see, you may look at the top card of your library at any time. That's pretty valuable because you can also be running those fetch lands. We typically are on Polluted Delta, Scalding Tar, and all that stuff. So we should be looking at that top card, and if we don't want it, cycle it away. That's just one mana. It's just hanging out. But my point is that we need cards in Urza. We desperately need cards, and you're only investing one mana in a situation where between turn 1 and 2 we usually have a blue. We could keep it up and we could use that Pontify, that Swan, we could keep it for this and that, but most of the time we can be a little bit greedy. We can put that thing out. We can put out a Fortune Teller's Talent, and if we have this as our top deck, once we already have we got angry animals outside. Okay, we got angry wife yelling at animals outside is really what that is. Jeez, that must have been bad. I got me feeling guilty in here. We need cards in Urza. And so what we're going to do is use this upgraded ability in order to get that. If you have Urza out, you typically have another 4 mana to invest into this the next turn. If you had already cast this before Urza, you're in really good shape. If you have one other thing in your hand, you're off to the races. You're top decking and you're storming. And guess what? Nobody likes that. You invested 4 more mana. It's really nice to just be like one, see the top and kind of like have some knowledge of where you're going. And then after you cast Urza, you're really happy this card's there. You just are, because guess what? Investing 4 into any Urza list. It doesn't have to be a Storm list. Any Urza list. That feels nice to even just have access to a counter spell or something like that on the top. If let's say you have one in hand and then one on the top deck, because it has the stipulation that you have to have played a card this turn. Let's say you hit somebody with a counter spell, and you have access to the next one. You get your flash speed going. That's pretty cool. You flash out that counter spell on top of their win condition, and well, I guess not flash it out because it's an instant, but you play it off the top. So let's say you play your counter spell from hand, they respond, or whatever. And then you hit it with that one off the top because you're enabled now, or you flash something in. Maybe that's what you'd do. You'd actually be able to, I don't know, now I'm just talking too far. You need flash, you need counter spells, you want the top deck manipulation. Fortune Teller's Talent is cool because you can, again, get that Sensei's top out, which is in most of our lists, and you can upgrade it for another 3, and spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less to cast. Do you know what that means, everybody? Is that this is a 1-card combo with Sensei's Top. You can draw your library, and if people are acting like it doesn't exist because you haven't heard of it. Most lists that run Sensei's top could benefit from this card, because do you not want to be able to cast off the top of your library? Are you not hungry for cards? Does that not lead to like almost a win for any CDH deck worth its salt? That's not just like a big boy flips. I don't know, like a cannon list maybe. Even a cannon list would be huge with this card. If you're running blue and you can make some mana, you can probably storm. You probably want your cards, and you might even have Sensei's top. So maybe you should consider the Fortune Teller's Talent that just came out in Bloomborough and is highly overlooked, and is a one card win condition with Sensei's. One card, you upgrade it, and because it happens incrementally and gets, it's a one card, it's a one mana buy-in. You understand? So it's like, and it's like, does it do anything immediately? Yeah, you get to see the top card. Is it huge? No, but the buy-in to be able to cast off the top is 5. Right, so you're on par there for just like, oh, I need a top deck caster this turn, and you top deck it, and you're like, oh, that's not the worst one. You just cast it for 1, and then you upgrade it for the 4, and guess what? You can still keep going because you cast a couple of things off the top, and you got the 3 mana in order to make anywhere, other than your hand, cost 2 less, and then you can basically just cast your whole deck because it costs 2 less. Any deck can do that, bro. It doesn't need to be storming off with Urza. So how about we give Fortune Teller's Talent a foil, please? It doesn't have a foil version, so let's start there, and some props in the meta. What else is there to talk about? It's like we went over that winning board state. You saw a lot of what I had to say about it. We added Wandering Archaic. That was what I was going to go over. A buddy of mine, Anthony, was like, hey, maybe you should consider this card. And I'm like, you know what? I don't have any reason not to. It's really hard to win if an opponent has a Wandering Archaic out there. I don't have like a whole lot of instants. I'm running like 13. And so if other people basically can bounce their instance off of my Archaic in order to double them and stop the next opponent, that's pretty cool. And it also protects my own. It's really nice to be like, okay, you can Swan Song my win condition here, my Fortune Teller's Talent, but you're going to have to pay 3 for it. And that's tough. A lot of people don't want to be doing that. And if you have the 1 or 2 pieces like we do in order to back yourself up, but I mean, it's not like they're tossing 2 pieces of interaction, and the likelihood that you can play counter spells into other opponents, it's like Wandering Archaic. It's really good protection, and it's also really hard to win through. So counter spell wars become your thing, and that's even possible when you don't have very many in there. So let's make sure that we are given, again, the board state protection spells their proper respect. We need them in order to go off in this mid-range grind. We are going to be doing things like Whir of Inventioning for a Conflail on the end step of our opponent into a turn where we have an Urza that's already under a pair of Swiftfoot Boots. That is the kind of play that we need. And then any top deck caster you have on there, you're in great shape. You got that Conflail, you're going to attach it. What are they going to do? They're going to blow up your Urza that's under your Swifties. You can just pile everything onto that one guy, and you're in really good shape. You get any top deck caster at that point, and you're off to the races. It's protected. Do that with Chimmel. Do that with the defense grid. Use an imposter mech. Copy an abolisher. That's the thing that we got to be thinking about. If somebody has an abolisher on the field with this list, you're going to be reshaping into an imposter mech to copy that thing and then go off. That's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here. If you have questions, let me know. I don't think I had any. Maybe I'll set up another email for you guys to send them to, so it's clearer that I want them, and it's clearer for me to like go and get them and bring them here. Maybe I'll streamline that. But if you have questions, go to the Urza Discord, ask them there, or you can just message me on Discord. Apparently, that's a good way for me to get them, is just directly message me. Or leave them in the comments. Nobody comments on these YouTube videos. Every once in a while I get one, but they are appreciated because it gets me some perspective on what you're thinking about watching these. It's like, are you just thinking, oh my goodness, he doesn't know what he's talking about? Talk trash in the comments. I don't care. I want to hear it. Is it worth going overhead today? Do we need to break out the binder? I'm kind of happy with the list. Tournament day Saturday, Guardian Games, Portland, Oregon. Show up. I'll be there. I'll probably jam. I mean, I may or may not jam a game beforehand. I think it starts at noon. Oh no! They're starting music out there. I don't want the copyright stuff. Goodbye, everybody. See you.